what's going on with our intro. It just
again.
cuts off. We need to fix that. But anyways, hello everyone.
Ashley, you're not there.
We're not there?
You're not there.
I'm not there. What do you
You're
mean
not
I'm
there.
not there?
I can't see you. Can anyone see Ashley?
This is the second time this has happened.
Yeah, it's just anticipation. This is what it is.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to introduce you while I'm in the void, and then I'll pop out and pop back in. So this is the Talkin Kop preview show. It's a bit of a bonus show. We're talking about the FA Cup clash, I guess if you want to call it. Liverpool play Barnsley this Monday. So we're here with a bonus show, and we're going to kind of talk through a little bit of the news of the day, some of the big major stories coming out of the FA Cup this morning, and then we'll talk about, some little tidbits that are going around. Kev, I'm going to take it over to you so that you can kind of talk. Let's just start with the FA Cup games that happened today. And I'm going to pop back in, and hopefully you'll be able to see me. Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay, no worries. All right, guys. Look, I got to be truthful. I didn't watch that much football today. I knew there was early games on this morning, but I thought, you know what? Nah, can't be bothered. And lo and behold, it looks like I missed an absolute cracker of Crystal Palace going out to Mansfield. And I suppose, look, the writers of the Sunday papers tomorrow, this is their wet dream. Premier League side going out to non-league side, and the fact that the holders go out in the third round, not unusual, it happens, but the holders going out to a non-league side in the third round is a bit of a blow. And to go out 2-1, and by all accounts deservedly, Mansfield didn't fluke this by any stretch of the imagination. But I mean, did any of you guys see it? What did you think of it? Ashley, did you catch any of that game this morning?
I don't even know which game you're talking about. I just came back in.
You just came back in. I know. She wasn't faking it. Crystal Palace and Mansfield.
So I watched the second half of that game, and to watch the pitch invasion for them, that was like a moment in history. By all means, it was a moment in history. That team has gone through so much recently. Much like us, they also lost a player to a tragic car accident. And that happened very recently for them. It happened back in December. And to go through that, knowing that as fans, what it's like for a club to go through that, for them to then have this moment, it felt like one of those poetic moments in football history. I don't know. For me, this is the magic of the cup and all the things. I don't want to put a cliche on it, but it was really a moment for them.
It is that, though, isn't it? It is pure cliche. The headline writers will be having an absolute field day for the papers tomorrow. And look, I suppose at the end of the day, when the draw comes out for the third round and you're Mansfield and you're drawn against the holders, first and foremost, you're going to get a TV game. You know that's going to be on TV. And the amount of lower league sides that I've seen, Forest Green Rovers is probably one that sticks out, where they get the TV money and they develop their ground with it, and they develop their training pitches, their youth facilities, and down the line it benefits the clubs long term. It's going to be huge for Mansfield, and the hope will be for them now in the fourth round. They'll get a plum draw, whether it's at home or away. If it's away, you'd hope it's at Anfield or Old Trafford or Newcastle, or a big, huge, full ground where they're going to get a good share of the gate money, and there'll be the TV game as well, and that will set them up financially for the next few years. And that's what they're in the Northern League, Northern District League, so it's going to be massive for them. And for a side like Palace, I'm just looking there at the lineup that Palace put out. It wasn't weak, but it was taking liberties with with some of the changes. They played some experienced players. Wharton started, Mark Guehi played, Pino, Devaney, I suppose, Benitez, experienced goalkeeper. But it shows what can happen if you take liberties against any professional side, and if you don't have the right mentality going into any game, which I think Palace probably didn't. Madge was saying there that Palace were absolutely atrocious. So it's one of them that if you're not mentally on it, or if you go into a game entitled, then you're very liable to have your arse handed to you, as what happened to us last season in the 4th round against Plymouth. So it goes to show what can happen when you play a side that doesn't play together regularly. But the one thing I'll say about Palace, that is the kind of lineup that Palace would have been putting out in the Europa Conference League during the early phases of the competition, where they were trying to use a lot of squad depth, kind of like how Chelsea did in the early rounds of it last season. And you can get away with it to a point, but you're not going to get away with it every time. And fair play to Mansfield for that. The other one seen it in the chat was Everton and Sunderland. And the question is, and I'll ask this of you, because you are the specialist in this, how did Everton get a penalty for that today and Verts not get one?
We're gonna have to do a side by side in our ref watch. That kid came on. I forget his name off the top of my head. The Everton lad that got the penalty. He came on. He was on the pitch for like 30 seconds. The ball came out to him. First of all, it was a handball, and then he took control of it, brought it into the penalty, and between him kind of diving over the leg of one of the Sunderland players and like the tiniest shove in the back. That's one of those ones I've heard it described as one of the worst decisions that they've seen live. I thought it was soft as hell. I really did. There's no VAR in this round, so it wasn't going to get overturned. I actually would be curious if they'd overturn that or not. Just given the fact that there was a little bit of contact, but once that's given on the pitch, I don't know. For me, that was not a penalty.
Once he gives it on the pitch, they're not overturning it.
I don't think they're overturning it. So
no, because there's enough in there that you can justify that he threw the.
But I do think they would go back and probably not give it because of the handball. So in the build-up, there's a pretty clear handball. So again, it's one of those. I think in the end, it all worked out. I think if that was the prevailing story that got them through, then it would have gotten a lot more attention.
Yeah, I think it's one of those that the footballing gods decided to give a bit of common sense. And if there had been VAR, they would have found a way around not giving it because it was so soft. But once they give it on the pitch, there is enough there to justify giving it, because he does throw a leg out. It is lazy defending. He does go over the leg. The leg's there to be gone over, and he goes over it. So it's soft as hell, but there's enough in there that you can justify giving it. But there isn't enough. If it's given on the pitch, there isn't anything there to say, no, that definitely isn't. Because as you
for
said,
me, it's just much softer than the Verts.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we just talk about consistency. We're never going to get consistency.
No, you're never going to get
consistency. We're never going to. But it's a great example how within the space of 5 days or less, that you can get two very similar challenges and have completely different outcomes.
I see this thrown around a lot. Brian makes the point here. The fact that they don't have VAR in some rounds and then they bring it in is a nonsense. It fucking isn't.
I think it's just because of the cost of implementing it at some of these smaller stadiums. Yeah. Like Macclesfield are never going to have VAR.
And to be honest, they'd rather have it than not have it. And if you can have it, if it's in use in a ground, and a lot of the thing with VAR is it's down to the amount of cameras that are there on the day.
Yes.
And for even today's games, every game today will be on Match of the Day now. There isn't the variety of cameras at every game to be able to have VAR available at every game. But if for Monday night's game against Barnsley, for example, there'll be enough cameras there that VAR should be in play.
It's just tough because I don't think you can implement it for some matches in one round and some matches in another round.
Why not? It's a tool. It's a tool. That's all
it is. It is a tool, but I do feel like it could be perceived as an advantage or a disadvantage.
I don't see how. It's a tool to be used by the officials to get the right decision. That's all it is. It's not there to cheat. It's not there to gain an advantage for one side over the other. It's designed to get the right decision. That's all it is. And
I think the argument would be though, like, let's just say there's a goal that's scored in one match that is marginally offside.
Yeah.
That's given because there's no VAR. And then you have the same goal scored that's marginally offside that's not given because VAR is there to disallow it. I think you get into sort of a gray area with sporting integrity. That's my only argument.
Yeah, I know, I get that, but that's just a look at the draw. I mean, at the end of the day, I just see VAR as a tool to be used, and it should be used wherever possible to get as much right as possible. There's some questionable decisions, even in the games that I've seen today. There are some really questionable decisions, and to me, it highlights the reason why VAR exists in the first place. It's because the referees are absolute shit when they're left to their own devices.
I mean, they're shit with the devices and without the devices.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those. You can talk about it, but it is coming in the fifth round, so it'll be there later.
I mean, Bunker's making a point there. So you shouldn't have VAR in the FA Cup if every team doesn't have it. To me, it doesn't make a blind bit of difference. It's a refereeing tool. If you're playing a game and the tool is available, you use the tools. If it's not available, you don't use the tools. But at the end of the day, it's there to aid referees. That's all it is. The person in the middle still has to make the decision. And we've seen today with some of the questionable decisions that were made up and down every game today, the need for VAR, because the second you leave them to their own devices, you realize just how fucking bad they are. And it's like you leave them have the law into their own hands without having a safety net or without having a check on them. They're a fucking atrocity. Every single fucking one of them. They're all fucking useless. And the fact that there was a third round today with God knows how many games, with God knows how many officials on show, made it even fucking more glaringly obvious. And it's not helped by commentators putting on, isn't it great we don't have VAR? Why? Because you get to talk about subjective decisions then, because like they did with Chelsea tonight, they had it with a penalty claim at the very end that Chris Kavanagh didn't give rightly, and Joe Hart had to look at it 4 times. He was giving it three out of 4 times, and on the 4th time, Darren Fletcher pointed out that the striker kicked the ground, and you had Joe Hart screaming for a penalty for 3 of the 4 times that he watched the replay. But then these same people will tell you that you should have players in the officials' room so they can give their input as to what's going on and what isn't going on. Space cadets, every fucking one of them.
Yeah, there's definitely room for improvement with all of the systems. No systems. There's room for improvement in the whole 100%. Kind of PGMOL.
But what was the game? What was the game today you watched that stood out that you were like, yeah, that was a belter? Because to me, it was
belter. I enjoyed the Newcastle Bournemouth game because it was just ding dong back and forth.
I didn't see it. I was out. I didn't see it.
So Bournemouth took the lead early on. Newcastle kind of clawed their way back in. At the very end of the game, Newcastle got like a really, really late third goal that I thought was going to win them the match. So at that point, it was 3-2. Newcastle were leading. And then pretty much the last kick of the ball was Bournemouth equalizing. And all Newcastle had to do was just take the ball to the corner. So that was exciting. And then it went into a penalty shootout that then went past the 5 penalty takers.
Oh, really?
So I think it finished 6-7. Newcastle ended up winning. Ramsdale saved a penalty kind of during sudden death. So that to me was a good watch. I then watched the Spurs game, which was less of a good watch. What?
Did you watch Wrexham and Nottingham Forest?
I did watch Wrexham and Nottingham Forest yesterday. Yeah, that was good too. That was also a ding-dong game. I should have called that out. I was thinking of today.
Sorry.
Yeah, very similar actually to the Newcastle game where it was just going back and forth. I don't know. I mean, I was actually surprised by Wrexham. I thought they played quite well.
They did, yeah.
They have a couple of good strikers there. Obviously, they have a lot of, new money going into that club, and there's television stuff and, all this stuff. But it was a good watch. Like, it was a good watch. And for Forrest to get knocked out, I don't know where that leaves Dijk. I have no idea.
Yeah, he's not in trouble.
I don't know if he's in trouble, but he's certainly not flying, and he hasn't stabilized them in the way that I thought. I think they need. I don't know when Chris Wood comes back. I don't know how long he's out for.
Well, that's a point. Thanks, Mark, for putting that in. Slott's press conference for Monday was recorded post Arsenal and should be out tomorrow lunchtime. In case anyone was wondering, I was wondering because I went on the YouTube channel to see if they'd put a slot up pardon the pun, if they'd put the post up as to when it's going to be shown, but they hadn't. But I don't like this habit. I
don't either. I don't like these pre-recorded things, and I feel like it doesn't really make a ton of sense given that most of the questions are going to be about Connor Bradley. We haven't had an update on Connor Bradley, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. You'd imagine that the specialist that he's going to see will be open on a weekend. It's not like a standard Monday through Friday thing, but I don't know if he's going to see multiple specialists. I have no idea. I saw a couple of still shots of him from behind watching that ankle roll out. The level of rotation in that ankle was not good. And I think what happens a lot of times is there is a bit of a ripple effect where the ankle can roll and then it can go up to the knee. So I'd be worried about the knee as well, because that's what he was clutching. But we can't speculate because there hasn't been anything released by the club. So that, I don't know if there'll be anything in the press conference about Bradley other than, he walked off the pitch, with crutches, or walked out of the stadium with crutches. You'd want to know that, I think, tomorrow, and you're not going to get that in a pre-recorded press conference.
100% you won't, and I don't think he would have been pushed about potential lineups or potential availability, because his stock answer is going to be, and rightly it's going to be, we'll see what players are like tomorrow when they report for training, and we'll see how the recovery goes. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a 4-day gap between games. This is kind of a normal gap period that we've had.
And then there's 6 days until we play after that, I think?
We play Monday night, and then we play Saturday 3:00.
Okay, yeah. So we've got time there.
Yeah, you've got a week, and it's like it's kind of like we've come out of this. I think I remember some Christmas periods where it was absolutely bonkers, where we were playing 2 games in 48 hours. Where we were playing maybe on a Monday and then on a Wednesday or something stupid.
They'd squeeze in like a random Boxing Day, and then you'd be doing like the 1st of January or something, or 2nd of January.
Yeah, but at the minute, it looks like our spacing between games has been pretty okay all the way through. So, I mean, the fact that it's...
thank God, because we don't have a squad to rotate.
No, we don't, but it's a 4-day turnaround, and then it's a 5-day turnaround after. And, in fairness, Bob makes a point there. And this is going to be a legitimate point, a legitimate question. Are we going to bin off another cup?
I mean, it's interesting because when you hear the players talk, they don't sound like they want to bin this off. Mm-hmm. So, McAllister was asked maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks ago about what this team could accomplish. And, universally, they all kind of seem to have their eye on the Champions League. Szoboszlai reiterated that today with some of the quotes that I saw. But McAllister name checks the FA Cup, and he mentions wanting to bring that to the club and thinking that, that's a chance at silverware. Look, he binned off the Carabao Cup. We understood why it needs to be binned off at the time, but I don't know if you can bin off 2 cups. I think you can maybe bin off 1.
Yeah.
That being said, we're not in a great place for rotation, but like you said, there's enough time in between. You're going to need to keep the fitness of these players up. You can use it as, almost a fitness session as much as anything else. And I think just to kind of keep morale going, I don't, because we're so far out of the league, I think you have to use this as an opportunity for silverware. Yeah. I just do.
I mean,
that's my opinion. But
no, and look, I think the other side of this is we're coming off of 3 draws on the bounce.
Yeah.
We need to get back to winning ways, and that squad needs to feel what it's like to win a game again.
I mean, there's players in that squad that definitely need a goal.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, last game we won was 2-1 against Wolves and 2-1 against Spurs. Then we've had a draw against Leeds, draw against Fulham, draw against Arsenal. Now, look, Arsenal, post-match, we come on, we talked about it. We talked at length about it in the post-match in the rant show.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, we won't come out of this, the Arsenal game, we were happy with the point. Disappointed not to work the keeper, but happy with the point, happy enough with the performance. What did you make of Virgil's interview?
Let me pull that up because I feel like it's worth reading. So give me a second. Let me pull it up. Basically, so Virgil van Dijk was asked about the Arsenal game, and he said, quote, "I am a bit surprised that people think this is a good performance because when we have 60 to 70% ball possession against other teams, people find it boring. And now it's a good performance. But again, we hardly created a chance. And now we say, what a performance. This is who we are. We can dominate possession. We know how to do build up, but we struggle, obviously, in a few things. Yes, we did really well in ball possession, but for me, it wasn't that much different than playing Leeds at home or Fulham away, where we dominated the ball and possession as well. So I sent that to you.
Yeah.
And look, he has a point, but as you said in your response, it's kind of missing the larger point, which is against Leeds and against Forest, you have to have a higher standard of what you expect from Liverpool. Not Forest, but against Leeds and against whoever it was. Fulham, thank you. I have a brain fart. I was like, it starts with an F. What is it?
Yeah.
But like against those two teams, I would expect to hold Liverpool to a higher standard in terms of what they should be doing. Like I don't want them to sit back against a Leeds. I don't want them to sit back against a Fulham. Against a full strength Arsenal, I understand why they're doing that. And I don't know if there's just a disconnect, maybe if it's one of those things where like a fan has one view and then a player has another view, or when you're in it, you don't necessarily see it the same way. But for me, that's obvious. It's obvious why fans would be okay with that performance against Arsenal and not against a Leeds.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you feel differently.
No, it is that. You're expected to make the game. You're expected to force the game, create chances, score goals against these sides. We knew going into that Arsenal game. I mean, God, everyone in the chat, and don't hide now because you're all Johnny come latelys after the fact. Before the fact, some of you were sat there like, we're going to get a hiding. If it's 3-0 or less, we'll be getting away with it,
And Slots did say the same thing. So Emmett asks, that was Slot, not Virgil. They both said the same thing.
Both said the same thing.
Yeah.
Virgil's quoted in the article.
If they sound like they're the same, it's because they are.
I think it's because is Virgil repeating what's been said in the dressing room to the players. Slot is saying this to the players that, look, just because you dominate the ball doesn't mean it's a good performance. The fact of the matter is we weren't the vast majority of fans weren't expectant going to the Emirates, partially because of our record there ain't great, and the glaring obvious that Arne Slot never made a substitution until he was forced to because he couldn't. And Arsenal made 5 changes that affected the game. There were players of value and of quality. We didn't have the depth. So there's mitigating factors in looking at one as opposed to the other. I get why they're trying to turn around and talk about the criticism that they're getting. The fact that dominating possession for the sake of possession, which is what they have been doing, is not acceptable. Being ineffective in front of goal and not working the opposition's keeper is a problem. But in the context of the Arsenal game, it's acceptable given where we were and given what we were up against. But saying that won't be acceptable Monday night. Monday night, we will dominate the ball. And if we go into it with the wrong mindset, and if we go into it with a squad full of under-21s and a couple of senior players, then I expect a really difficult night. And I don't hold out. I think it becomes a toss-up. I think a game against a side from League One, League Two, the Championship that you don't take seriously, you're inviting the banana skin to come and step. You're inviting yourself to step on it.
Well, let's talk about the banana skin that happened last year, because I think that's the elephant in the room. Yeah. We basically had the Crystal Palace performance of last year. It was not great. But when you look at that lineup, I mean, there were quite a lot of senior players in that squad. So, I mean, going back, I'm going to have to pull it up right now, but I believe it was Simicast, it was Gomez. We had Kelleher in goal. I know that Nioni was there, Elliott was there, McConnell was there, Jota was there, Diaz was there, for you now. Chiesa was there. There's 2 that I'm missing off the top of my head.
I'll tell you exactly now. The lineup for that game was Kelleher in goal, Joe Gomez, Costas Tsimikas, Gerald Kwanzaa,
Wataru
Endo, Harvey Elliott, James McConnell, Trey Leone, Luis Diaz, Federico Chiesa, and Diogo Jota.
That wasn't bad for off the top of my head. I was just
no, that's very, very good. I'm telling you, you're my quiz partner.
I'm not Gav, but I.
No, if I ever get dragged into doing quizzes again, then you're my quiz partner. No. All right, that's just
no. The problem is that my footballing knowledge like cuts off drastically at a certain date. So like any of the history stuff, I can't do.
Yeah, then we just cry and core and we just like make our excuses.
So like thinking about that, like most of those players, I would kill for some of those players actually as squad players now, which is crazy to say.
Yeah.
But yes, Madge, I think that's the point. It was a team that had never played before. I think that's sort of nail on head here. And it's something that we're going to have to be careful to stay away from this time. We're going to have a little bit of continuity. For me, I think there are some players that are sort of nailed on starters. So like Gomez for me is a nailed on starter. Yeah. Robertson, another nailed on starter. You know that Marmarashvili is going to be a starter. Yes. You know, I think Chiesa starts. If Chiesa is fit, again, he sort of had that late fitness test before Arsenal.
Yeah.
You think Nioni, you think Rio probably gets starts here. And then you have players like Gakpo, who's coming back, you know, who might need fitness here. He might need this game for fitness. I think he needs another goal.
Yeah.
I think Chiesa needs some goals as well. I would love Rio to get on a score sheet here. And then in terms of like who you kind of like plug and play the other pieces with, I think whoever's not in a red zone. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to get the sports science team together, say, okay, who can realistically plug these gaps? Maybe you do 45-45 between certain players like a McAllister and a Szoboszlai. If you look at Szoboszlai, he had that extended week off because he had that suspension. So he's going to be a little bit fresher than everyone else. So I think he probably plays.
Yeah, Kevin Ramsey probably plays as well.
That's a good shout as well. Yep, Ramsey. Yeah. I think you have players like Will Wright, who's been doing a good job for the youth team. He's just back from injury. I think he'll be on the bench.
I think so, yeah.
You know,
for me, would look at, okay, though, I'll give you a kind of initial 11. What I would do anyway. Mamardashvili in goal. Ramsey. I'd have Gomez, I'd have Virgil, and I'd have Robertson.
Okay. Yeah, so Virgil's the one that I think of the senior players will probably have to play. Because Ibu, again, was a late fitness test for Arsenal.
Yeah.
And if we're doing late fitness tests on anyone, I don't want them included. That goes for Wirtz, that goes for Ibu, that goes for Ekitike. Yeah. There are certain players that I don't want risked.
Yeah, they're on the bench.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, if at all.
Midfield, I'd have Jones in the 6.
I don't know if he's fit.
Well,
he was on the bench, but again, he was a late fitness test as well. Yeah, so look, maybe, but yes.
I have to assume he's on, if he was on the bench, I have to assume that he's going to be available 4 days later.
Okay.
All right. So Jones in the 6 with Trey Leone next to him. I'd have McAllister playing in the midfield as well.
Okay.
On the right, I'd have Chiesa through the middle, Cody Gakpo out front, and Rio and Gamoa on the right, on the left. Sorry.
So you're not starting Szoboszlai?
No,
even though he had time off.
Yeah, because you don't know how long if Joe Gomez is able to do 90.
Okay.
We don't know if Ramsey can do 90. We don't know where his fitness is at.
We don't know if any of them can do 90.
No, but the fact that you have Szoboszlai to be able, for me, would be available to come on. You could start.
So he's your sort of multifunctional sub.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's there for whatever needs be. Yeah.
I'd be bringing him on 45, and I'd be bringing Kanate on 45.
Okay.
All right, and after that, it's a case of see what works after that. I'd have the majority of players who are available on the bench. They're going to be at the ground anyway. They're going to have a normal match day on the Monday. They're going to be at the ground anyway. So sit and watch it on the bench. If you're not needed, you're not needed. So what? You go and have a run around and warm up as you normally would, but you're there if needed. We cannot afford to get knocked out of this competition in the third round by anybody. And for the same reason as you said earlier on, squad harmony.
Mm.
There's going to be, if we're assuming at the minute that Liverpool aren't doing any business, we're going to need games to be able to turn around to the likes of Calvin Ramsey, Chiesa to a point, Endo if he becomes available, Rio, Trainioni, that you can get your match sharpness up in the FA Cup and show that you're ready to come on for half an hour or even start games. But if you get knocked out early in this competition, you're down to the league and Champions League, and you won't take risks with anybody, bringing players who are untried into the starting 11 unless he absolutely has to. Even look, the other night, I think it was the Leeds game or the Fulham game where Chiesa probably should have played, and he just wouldn't use him from the start. It's for whatever he was forced into having to use him in one game, and because he hasn't played any meaningful football from the start of a game, you got what you got out of him, which is unsurprising, really. These players need real football. It's all good having training sessions and training matches and all of that stuff. It's not the same as playing in front of 60,000 people who are like a bay mob, who are demanding a performance. You need that level of experience and that level of sharpness. And that's what this game should be all about for these players who are going to be coming into the squad on Monday night. And I have no problem using these players that are available to you because, look, we're not going to be challenging to win a title. And that's the difference. When the likes of Klopp was bidding off the FA Cup in the early rounds and just playing a lot of youth players, it was almost with one eye on winning the League Cup because we were generally in and around the knockings of that. And we were going for Champions League and we were going for Premier League titles. This season, we're not. We're going for top four, possibly chasing down third, and we're going for Champions League. We don't know if we're going to have to play a playoff in that yet. We might end up. We
need to win one more game, I think, in the Champions League. One of the two games.
I think 4 points out of 6 will probably get us into that latter stage.
I think even just one game. I think 16 points. I think is.
We'll see. I mean, the thing is, the possibility is still there that we could end up having 2 extra games. We know after tonight, Mo Salah is going to be at AFCON until AFCON finishes now.
Yeah,
he's either going to be there for the third place playoff, or he's going to be there for the final. So we worked it out. At best, he might be back in the matchday squad
for Bournemouth.
He'll definitely be on the pitch for Bournemouth. That's nailed on because that's a week.
I think everyone has, at least the people that I've read, have said game week 23 is the game that he would be back. So rather than getting him back for Marseille, it would be for the Bournemouth game.
But I think I don't expect to see Ekitike available. I would be surprised if Wirtz is on the bench, maybe at best.
Well, there's a few people in here calling for some youth players, and Mark puts in here, and I was going to get to this. The youth team played yesterday, so the U21 played yesterday, and so the team for that was Pesky, Davidson, Lucky, Nallo, Chambers, Kelly, Morrison, Pilling, Laffy, Kane Doherty, and Will Wright. So the shouts for Lucky and Nallo to come in, they played the full 90 yesterday. So I think that tells you that maybe they're on the bench, but I don't think they're going to be starting like with 2 days. I don't think they're going to be starting with 2 days in between.
No.
I would assume that senior players are going to take that role. Also, I think Nallo is going out on loan, or the plan is to send him out on loan and have those new kids that are coming in get involved in I think pretty soon in Rob Page's side.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the new signings will be involved. If there's kids involved, I think they're going to be off the bench. If you're looking at a Lucky or a Nallo, I think it's going to be off the bench.
I'd say you might have 2, maybe 3 of them on the bench, tops. Will Wright more than likely. Nalo, I'd imagine, would be involved on the bench.
But Lucky's the one that's been on the bench recently.
I know, but I think Nalo would probably be the one. I think Lucky is the under-21 captain. So whether it's a case of he's the most senior under-21 centre-back that's available, and that's why they wanted to include him, that's one thing. But Nalo is the one who's been in and around matchday squads more often.
Which hasn't gone very well.
I know. But the thing is with him, if he's going to go out on loan, and if he goes out on loan to a side who are currently in the FA Cup, they're not going to want him cup-tied. So it might be a case that Lucky gets on the bench that way. You don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, I still think that there's enough of a turnaround between the Arsenal game and the league game on the Saturday that you can go strong enough in this. Use the 5 substitutions that are available to you to manage player load against Barnsley. And you should be going to do a job on Barnsley.
There's a shout really because Kirk, by all intents, or not all intents, but all reports, Kirk is fine. He's been fit. He is kind of like the Energizer Bunny. There's a situation where you could play Kirkez and then Robertson could step in as that center back if you didn't want to play Virgil.
I thought about that. The only thing I'd say is the one thing that you're going to get against lower league sides, they're going to be physically.
Yeah, they're going to be big. We're going to play for set pieces. They're probably going to park the bus. All the things that we hate.
They're actually not physically big.
They're not?
I looked before I came on. I thought, I'm just going to have a quick look on FootMob and see how many of these players.
I mean, they're not doing that well at the moment.
If FootMob are accurate,
okay,
their average heights are between 5'10" and 6 foot. Even their centre backs are 6'1". They're not physically big. They're not doing well in League One. They have 3 games in hand on the side below them.
I think they're in 17th at the moment.
They're 4th from bottom. They're 5th from bottom. 2 points ahead of the relegation zone with 3 games in hand. Okay. But the one thing that they do have a massive advantage on is they've had 10 days to prepare for this.
Yeah, so their last game was basically iced out. The pitch was frozen.
Yeah, they were due to play Port Vale on the 4th of January, and it was called off because of ice. So they haven't played since New Year's Day. They're around. Their last fixture was in and around the New Year's, and they have 10 days to prepare for this. So, and for all of these players, the only player that screams out that I've ever heard of before is McGoldrick. He's 38 now, Irish international, been around the houses, really experienced player. They're managed by Conor Houlihan. He's only 34, Conor Houlihan. He's only just finished playing. Really good player in his day, but by all accounts, a really promising young manager, kind of in the mold of a Liam Rossinier.
Okay.
Likes to get the ball down and play. Isn't that Hoofer type of football manager. Likes to play football. And for these players coming to Anfield is going to be, for a lot of them, the biggest day of their professional football lives.
Yeah.
And as long as you'd expect them not to freeze, under the lights, under the TV cameras, you'd expect them not to freeze. You'd expect them to come and have a right go. And if you're a Barnsley fan, that's all you can expect. That's all you can hope for. And you've seen it up and down the fixtures today. Almost every side, Premier League side, almost nobody's taken liberties with this competition, and the sides that have taken liberties have, like Palace, have had their face well and truly slapped. So it's like even Man City. And look, and I know Man City have depth and what have you, but at the end of the day, City,
according to Sky Sports, they don't, and they're struggling.
Yeah, my ass. I love that kind of struggling. What was
their lineup today? I don't even know what it was.
I'll tell you now. It was
because I didn't watch that game. I mean, once it went like 3-0, I was like, well, that's done. I didn't bother.
Okay. You had James Trafford in goal. You had Lewis, Kushanov, Elaine, and Ake at the back. Rodri in the middle of the park. McAdoo, who's a promising young teenager that's coming through. Shirky, Reinders, Semenyo, and Haaland up front.
Oh, really struggling with that squad depth with Haaland up front.
And for context, the subs that they brought on Riley at halftime. Mufunu, never heard of him. Mukasa, never heard of him.
But Silva and Doku,
and Doku ain't bad. And then you had Nunes, Gonzalez, Foden, and Donnarumma to make up the bench. That's what I mean. That's why I want us to go pretty strong with our starting 11. The kind of 11 that I said. I mean, with Trey and with Rio added to it is a strong enough 11, right? I don't mind 2 or 3 kids on the bench, but I want the safety net of players to be able to come off the bench that can affect games. That means Florian Wirtz is on the bench. If Hugo Ekitike is fit and available, but you don't want to start him, fine. Have him on the bench. He doesn't have to come on. You don't have to use him. You can bring on Will Wright if you're 3-0 up with 20 minutes to go and you just want
That's the thing. That's what I was going to say. What I want to see is almost the opposite of the games that we've seen recently, where it's get the game won in the first half. Don't putz around for 45 minutes. Get the game won and then give the kids a chance. Give the kids the opportunity to do what they want. And it's funny because I say that, but I also think that if it's 2-0, don't do that. If it's 3-0, I still don't feel comfortable. It needs to be like 5-0, and then you can bring the kids on. Because honestly, I don't trust us to not just capitulate, which is crazy. But yeah.
Sean, I was calling him Mansfield earlier, and it's not. It is right. It's Mansfield FC. Only set up 5 years ago. An amazing victory for them. Great to see after Mansfield Town was dissolved in 2020.
Yeah.
So it's the equivalent of MK Dons back in the day when MK Dons was formed on the back of the threat of Wimbledon being at one stage they were trying to move Wimbledon FC to Dublin at one stage and have a Premier League side in Dublin, but because of what happened with Wimbledon, MK Dons was formed, and similar kind of story. That they had to come through the lower leagues to get back into the football league, to get back, and to get back to where they was. Because Mansfield Town were in and around. They're always a lower league club.
I feel like they were down in like the 9th league at some point recently.
Yeah. But Mansfield Town were. I can remember them being in League 2, the old 4th division. And when you see any club, and I mean Bury is the most recent example, any club that's dissolved. And you sit there and you're thinking like the town, for that town, it would have been a disaster. So for that club to be reformed and to put in and get a win like that today is huge for them. Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure I read that Palace is actually letting them keep all of the gate receipts too, which I really like.
It's good
as a gesture, where they're saying basically all the profits from the game they can keep. So yeah, it is
Mansfield. Mansfield are still going through. As a club, through Nigel Clough as their manager. Oh, okay, cool. Mansfield owner said he bought the club. Oh, shut up. You're joking me. Mansfield owner said he bought the club on Rightmove during a 4-day pandemic. You can all relate. That's one of those things when you get your phone out and you're going through love holidays and you're like, oh, yeah, I love that. And you book it and then you wake up and you check your emails and you get the reminder. Payment is made, dude. What did I buy?
Payment is made. I don't even know how much that would cost. I have no idea off the top of my head.
I'd imagine something like that would have been free, but you just take on all the debts. That's the thing.
Maybe. I did read. I think that their captain was working as like a highway maintenance person.
Yeah.
And then decided he was going to pursue his career in football recently, which I don't know. I love stories like that.
Well, the thing is, we're used to it here with the GAA because the GAA is an amateur association, and you'll often see county players playing for their county who are high-profile names, but they're all teachers. They will go to school. They will be at work on a Monday morning, in the classroom teaching whatever subjects. So it's normal. But at the same time, if you're a lower league football, I used to know someone actually, and they played today, Weston-super-Mare against Grimsby. They lost 3-2. I used to know someone who was involved at Weston-super-Mare. And the amount of volunteers that are there to do the legwork for these clubs, maintaining the pitches, providing food, all the necessary stuff that happens on match days is almost all done by volunteers because the club can't afford to pay anyone. And so even a third round, going out of the FA Cup in the third round for a club like Weston to a side like Grimsby is going to be huge money for them. It's absolutely mental. But the amount of stories you used to get in the FA Cup third round as well. Even I remember players playing against Liverpool back in the day, and it would be like, "Oh, he's a painter and decorator, or he's a plasterer," or and you're like, they're one step up from Sunday League. But an awful lot of these players who are now playing in lower league clubs have almost always come out of youth academies.
Well, it's like, I mean, it reminds me of that famous quote from Andy Robertson, where it's like, life at this age is rubbish with no money. I need a job.
Yeah,
like back when he was playing lower division football.
Yeah, he was on YTS. He was on a YTS scheme, and basically a YTS scheme was basically you were on unemployment benefit. You were basically you were basically getting social welfare, and you were being paid to work at the football club, and you're lucky enough to be able to play there as well. But YTS schemes were like.
He used to work at Marks and Spencer's, didn't he?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah. And it's the kind of grounding that's almost gone out of the game now. But a lot of these players that are rejected from top flight academies and first championship academies tend to get back into football through the lower leagues. So you might see 21, 22, 23-year-olds playing for the likes of Barnsley and clubs that are knocking around League One, League Two, who have got the football ability, but it just never worked out for them. And it's a route for a lot of players back up the league, to try to get moves back up to the championship mainly, because there's not too many Premier League clubs that go looking for talent in the lower leagues anymore. They tend to go looking abroad for players that they can flip, whereas not too many clubs now tend to buy for the championship anymore, or in some cases I've seen players being signed from League One. And they, it just doesn't happen as much anymore. So,
like Jamie Vardy's a good example.
Yeah, but even then, Jamie Vardy's 38 now. So
yeah, I think he's a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so even he
didn't break in until I want to say he didn't break in until his very late 20s.
Ricky Lambert was another one. He came through he got rejected, went back down through the non-league set up and then back up through the leagues that way. Ian Wright was probably the most famous one of the lot. He ended up in Nick for fines that he never paid. He ended up in jail, and when he got out, ended up being spotted playing Sunday League, and went for a trial and got in at Crystal Palace. And turned his life around. That he didn't come to proper football until he was in his early, I think he was 20, 21, when he got discovered. So you never know what you're going to come up against. That's what I mean with players like at Barnsley who are going to be coming in to play Liverpool, game of their lives, eyes of the world on them.
That's the thing. It's a scouting opportunity for them as much as anything else.
You put in a good performance. What's to say a club in Belgium doesn't come and try to take you, or a club in the Netherlands doesn't try to come and give you a chance? Who knows? And that's when you've got to anticipate that if you're lax or you're going there, we're at home, we're Liverpool, we're entitled to win this.
I think the home thing should help. It should play a role. It should be bouncing. It should be people that don't necessarily always get to go to a Premier League game. Maybe some kids get to go. Maybe some families get to go and sit together. Hopefully enough people that would really kind of like boost the atmosphere. I don't know. I'm hoping that this is one of those things that we can. I know that we've been kind of doom and gloom recently, but in all honesty, like this is a game that we should be professional about. Yeah. Be professional, get the job done, maybe get a couple goals on the, we don't have to smash them. We really don't, but like be professional. Don't show them so much respect that we're sitting off against a team that's down in the lower leagues.
I see it there now, right? I mean, look, Fulham today, 3-1 against Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough are knocking around the top levels in the championship. And Fulham turned up. They got a 3-1 win. And by the looks of it, their starting lineup today, I'll just have you a quick look. Harrison Reed came in. Adama Traore came in. Kevin started. They had a young striker up front. But the rest of the side was more or less the same. Well,
like even the Chelsea game, I mean, I would consider that a good comparison maybe to what we're looking for. I mean, they started with let me pull it up. They started with Jorgensen in goal. They had Archimpong, Toshin, and Badiashile and Hato as their back four. They had Caicedo, Buenanote, who has been pulled from underneath a rock somewhere. Santos. They had Garnacho. They had Gittins, and they had I don't know how you pronounce his name. Guehi. Guyu. That's so not phonetically spelled.
I know.
Anyways, that was their starting lineup. And then they threw in Estevao, Fernandez, Delap, Wesley Fofana, and Pedro Neto. So again, they have acres and acres and acres of depth in terms of what they can bring on. But it's not an overly weak team. It's not, you're not throwing in too many U21 players. And I think that's the difference. It's like, for us, we don't really have a squad. We have starters, and then we have U21. We don't really have this middle ground. So that's going to be interesting. But
I think you're doing more harm than good by throwing them into games like this. If it doesn't go your way. You definitely don't do them any favors. That's why I think if you're starting with Trey Neone and you're starting with Rio, they've been in and around the first team squad all season long. Picking up the patterns of play shouldn't be a problem. And I think that's probably the one overriding factor with all of this. I've been doing a lot of watching YouTube over the last few days. Rabbit holes. Some I get pulled down weird rabbit holes. But a lot of the stuff with Liverpool I've been watching. And you remember on the club, the patterns of play were the same. You could interchange the parts, but the players who came in knew what they were coming into, knew what was expected of them, knew the positions that they had to be picking up on the pitch. This season, it feels like we're trying to second guess ourselves because the moving parts that we're bringing in aren't in the right place, in the right position. And we're kind of second guessing everything at the minute. Everything seems to be taking one touch too much, one touch too long. And we're being overcautious instead of being aggressive. And the hope is, like, I watched the Villa game earlier, and Villa's first goal, very reminiscent of how we play. That ball from the centre backs into midfield, the midfielder turns and knocks it straight through the middle.
Yeah, front to back, real quick.
Yeah, but right through the middle, through the spine, and it's bang, 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 a little touch, a pass, pull a runner out. Porro got pulled out, runner in behind him, slip him in, goal.
Speaking of Spurs, do you think that Frank has time there? Or do you think that his time is up? I'm curious if you're in the chat, like, what are your thoughts on Frank? Because I sent Kev a message this afternoon, and I just told him I'm still kind of shocked that he hasn't stabilized the ship there. Like, there's enough. I know they have injuries. I mean, they just got Solanke back, but they're missing key players. They're missing Madison. They've missed Kulusevski for giant chunks of this game. They have a walking red card in Romero. There's so many things going on. But that being said, I am surprised that he hasn't been able to just kind of get them to like a Fulham level. Like, I'm not expecting the world of them, but I expected more from Frank.
Yeah, me too. I mean, look, the question is, is it a case that Brentford was his level?
Or was it a case of the surrounding actors at Brentford playing a big role in his success?
It could
because
be.
You also, if you look at what's his face that took over?
Keith Andrews,
you wouldn't necessarily think of him as a top 6 contender.
Good God, no.
But yet that's where
he was a set piece coach.
I know, but that's where they are. Yeah. So it's like, is it the structure at Brentford that's really propping the manager up? And there's an argument to be made that based on Keith Andrews' success, that maybe Thomas Frank was largely kind of buttressed by everyone around him.
But the flip side of that is he put the system in place. He put the structures. The structure over his head was what brought him in. But the coaching structure and the playing structure and everything around the training ground, he would have had total control over that. And Keith Andrews is a smart guy. He was part of the coaching staff. He saw how it worked. And being a smart, clever guy, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He's tweaked how they play, but he hasn't overhauled anything. You can still recognize Brentford as being Brentford from the Thomas Frank days as to now. The one thing I'd say about Spurs is Spurs have a tendency to be governed by the fan base. The ownership tend to bottle things when
they have a vibe that they're looking for, and everything's driven by that rather than by logic.
They had this thing called the Spurs way, which is delivered the sweet sum of fuck all for 40 years.
No, they did get the Europa League.
Yeah.
Don't forget about good old Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah, God love him. But it's one of those things. Spurs have an entitlement culture about them that they think that because they got shiny new things in a new stadium and a new training ground, that they think they're entitled to something. Spurs haven't really spent significant money. You look at what Arsenal have spent, what Liverpool have spent, what sides who are expected to go and challenge for silverware have gone and spent over a sustained period. Spurs haven't. You know, I mean, they looked out.
Well, they do have the money for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But they don't have the ownership with the balls to do it.
Well, they recently switched too, so I don't know what's going on there.
In my opinion, they looked out with Harry Kane. Harry Kane and Heung-Min Son carried that team for years.
I mean, they have the second highest earnings in the entire league behind Man City.
Yeah.
And again, Man City is arguably fluffing their figures.
But they don't spend on, and that can be to a detriment. Look, you saw Saka apparently signing a 300 grand a week deal, right?
Yes.
Saka has not scored more than 15 goals in a season once.
I think he's lower than Mo Salah, who's having, the worst season of his entire life. I mean, that being said, Kev, I mean, if you look at Spurs, I know you say they don't spend, but over the past 4 seasons, right? If you had to guess, what do you think their net spend is? Just if you had to guess.
Ballpark net spend.
Yeah.
I'd say probably about 130 million.
Let me blow your mind.
Go on.
Their net spend over the past 4 years is £516 million.
On what?
I'm telling you, let me blow your mind. They are 3rd in the league for highest spenders behind Chelsea and Manchester United. They have spent more than Arsenal.
Actually, we could have come up with a better transfer policy than that. 560 quid.
Yeah,
560 million quid. Jesus. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
So, I mean, I feel like it's really important to throw that in there for context.
But is it a case that they've turned around and spent their money on your 20,
they spent
30...
over double us in the last 5 years.
20, 30, 40 million pound players in the hope of flipping them. If they'd done the gamble thing like Chelsea in bringing players in, hoping to flip them.
I don't know if their scouting is very good.
Yeah, that's the thing. See,
you think about the players that they've brought in, they're all sort of I don't know. They're just kind of middle of the road players. No one's really outstanding. They've had bad luck with Solanke getting injured, but they haven't really had any home runs that I can think of off the top of my head. Kulusevski had a great season recently, but a lot of players are I suppose it's like Madison. That's sort of he's good, but
he's not.
Is he elite?
No, he's not. And I suppose the one glaring, obvious one that you can look at the deal they signed Brendan Johnson. They brought Brendan Johnson in for £47 million, and they've sold him for 35 after a year. So not only did they lose money on the initial transfer, they blew their ring on a player and got it badly wrong with their scouting. So,
for example, this year they brought in 210 million euros worth of players. That's euros.
Yeah.
But you're
out of all of those players, who
Danzo, Tell, Simmons. I mean, Kudus was a big outlay, but that's just this season. You talk about the year before. They brought in Archie Gray, Odebear, Bergvall, Kinski, Tell. It's a lot of players that are sort of they're here, but they've never really made that leap.
Yeah. I think that if they're judged, if the board panic and do what they tend to do, because eventually Spurs fans turn their ire on the board. And that's when the board turned around and punched down and get rid of the manager and buy themselves some saving grace.
Well, they're arguably just as bad as Manchester United in that regard, in that they don't give the manager time. And then when they do finally kind of get something going, then they just kind of pull the plug and start all over again.
This is going to be their biggest problem, all right? And if Thomas Frank turns around next season, right, if he's there now for another year, and for argument's sake, he turns it around and he gets Spurs challenging for top 4 football, all right? Say Spurs become the next Aston Villa and they're in third, looking up rather than down. Odds are Thomas Frank is getting poached by a Man City. And that's where Spurs' problem is always going to be. Kind of like Villa with Unai Emery. At the end of the summer, Unai Emery is going to be the hottest manager ticket in town for clubs who are going to be looking for managers. And there's going to be plenty of clubs looking for managers. And it's one of those catch-22 situations with Spurs. What do they want? If they want to qualify for European football, and they've spent, like you said, to achieve European football, then, they should have stuck with Postecoglou, because he will get them European football. He will flog players to death, and he will cause more problems, and he'll play heart attack football. But odds are he will get them into the Europa League or the Conference League. And if that's what they're looking for, that's fine. But as a club, I don't know what they expect. They're not Arsenal. They're not Chelsea.
They're spending more than Arsenal. And I look at Arsenal and I say that they're heavy spenders. Yeah. I don't think they get enough kind of media attention for the amount of money that they've spent to build that squad, and the amount of money that's actually being funneled through, kind of like loans and things that are just slightly dodgy, in my opinion.
Jesus Christ, that's another one. I forgot about him. Yeah, this been 60 million on Richarlison.
He went down with a bad hamstring injury, it looked like today. Ooh. So he's out. He's out for a while. So yeah, just another injury.
Well, this is it. This is the catch-22. Does he deserve time? Well, Rome wasn't built in a day. And
I mean, look at Klopp. Like, Klopp took a while to get going.
Yeah.
Like, he was fine, but he wasn't outstanding in the beginning. It took time. They had to buy into it.
Yeah. That was it.
That's the thing. Like, can you buy into the culture of Frank? Can you give him enough time to not only, like, I don't know. It's like, look at our team. And if you're going to change players and things like that, like over the course of 6 months, everything's going to be choppy as fuck. Like, you're not going to get any consistency. And that's where Frank is. He's dealing with kind of figuring out what his team is. That being said, there is a level that you can sink to as a Spurs as Spurs. And if he's not in Europe next year, I do kind of wonder where that puts them. Because they're far out of Europe right now. I think they're down at 12th or 14th.
They're 14th.
Yeah.
They're on 27 points.
I mean, it's 3 points to catapult yourself up the.
This is it. They're 4 points off Chelsea in 8th. It's not the be all and end all. But at the same time, they're not going to get relegated. They're 13 points ahead of West Ham.
No. They're not going to get relegated. But like the financial implications of not being in Europe again, I don't know what that means for them. Like I said, they're very healthy in terms of their earnings, largely because of what they can do outside of the footballing at that stadium.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is Spurs fans are very entitled to have a real bitch and moan about the amount of money they're paying to watch football. And I think they're one of the most expensive grounds in the Premier League to go and watch a game. Now, granted, you're sitting in a lovely stadium to go and watch your games, right? But I don't know what you want to see a winning side, all right? And they have good players. It's just they have to work out a way of being solid, first and foremost. They have to work out a way of keeping clean sheets. And Thomas Frank, for all of his faults when he was at Brentford, he always had a Brian Mbeumo, a Vissa, who week in, week out you could trust that they were starting and you could trust that they were going to get chances. At Spurs, I don't think he has that. I don't think he has the forward players. I think they're young and they're raw.
I mean, he was the one that signed Kelleher. If he had signed Kelleher, I actually think he would be in a better place for Spurs.
He would.
And I actually think Kelleher is good enough to be at a Spurs as a starting keeper.
No, I honestly think Kelleher, if he's at Brentford next season, will be a surprise.
Well, if you look at the players, like let's say that Frank had, and we'll finish on this because I want to touch on a couple of rumors before we cut out. Let's say that Frank brought his signings with him to Spurs instead of Brentford, and he brought Igor Thiago and he brought Kelleher, and then he built the rest of the team around those two players. I think just with those two players, you'd be talking about you'd be talking about Brentford and Spurs probably switching places.
Yeah, more than likely.
Why they sold Brendan Johnson, he wasn't playing Brendan Johnson. I don't know what the backstory is there. But if they can reinvest that money, which it looks like they're trying to do, I think they're bringing in a left back. I think his name's Souza or Suzo, something along those lines. And then I think they need to bring in a forward. They need to bring someone that's going to put goals on the board for them, especially if Richarlison is out for however long it looks like he's going to be out for, which is probably a month or if not more. Yeah,
I think that if I'm Newcastle United, I'm looking at Kelleher in the summer, 100%. If I'm aside,
I mean, Spurs should be looking at him too.
Spurs should be looking at him for sure, but I think if I'm Newcastle's owners, I'm looking to bring Kevin Kelleher into Newcastle, 100%. Whatever Spurs do up front, I think that Thomas Frank deserves time because he's shown at Brentford with time he can get it right. They're still not it's not his squad. It's not his players. He still needs mobility in the middle of the park, and they need more outs than what they've done so far. They need to be busy, ins and outs, and I think that's where a deal could become possible for us in the summer for Van de Ven.
There are rumors that he wants out.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to be available in the summer. 100%.
I think he still has 3 or 4 years left on his deal.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a cheap thing.
No, but I don't think he should be a cheap thing. I think he's head and shoulders their best player. But I don't think you'd be more than 60 million for him. And look, in today's market, depending on what kind of World Cup he has, I think he's 25, 26. You know, he's got Premier League experience. He's not as old as what
we did
think.
Scout him extensively.
Yeah, we did look at him way before he went to Spurs.
He's 24.
Yeah,
so he's actually younger than I thought, and he's 6'4", so he's very tall. Yeah. So Dylan will be happy there.
And he's a left back for the Netherlands.
True. Yeah, I mean, we could just bring all of the Dutch squad.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if you're playing left back for the Netherlands, you're a footballer. And if you want to be a footballing centre back, comfortable with the ball at your feet, which I think he is, then I think he's ideal.
And he lets you play a high line, which is something that is definitely.
It doesn't have to be a suicide. It doesn't have to be a crazy line.
No, we don't need to do an Ange line.
Yeah. I would be interested in Thiago as well, to be honest.
I think he's one that's going to move. And you know what? Brentford have this pipeline that they've created where they find, maybe less expected strikers out of nowhere, whether it's Mbeumo, whether it's Visa, whether it's now Thiago. Their ability to find players that, kind of comfortably get you into that 10 to 15-ish goals a season range. And they can have multiples of them. Yeah. I think last year they had 2 or 3 players that were all hitting those numbers.
Yeah.
It's very reminiscent of us when we had not Frimpong, oh my God, where we had Bobby and Sadio and Mo kind of up front where they were all kind of sharing the load. They have an ability to find those players.
Yeah.
Before we go, speaking of finding players, there's a couple kind of new names that have popped up. There's nothing concrete with regards to Liverpool and links to new players. But we've seen some news with Guehi. I'm just going to touch on it really briefly. Basically that Manchester City are continuing to push with Guehi, but as of right now, there's no movement there. it looks like the word that's coming out of Palace is that Guehi is very happy where he is. He wants to finish the season with Crystal Palace, and that he would prefer a move to Liverpool in the summer. That's what has been said. Can he be prized away from Crystal Palace mid-season? He is cup-tied now, so that's something to consider. He played today, so he can't play any cup games. I think it's going to take something like 40-ish to get him out, would be my guess. There's rumors that Palace would accept less, but I don't think that's true. I think that they're going to play hardball, and I don't think that he wants to leave. So for me, that's a park it and wait and see thing. A couple new names that have popped up recently is Christos Tizolis, who is a Belgian winger. Apparently, he's a player that we have scouted in the past. He went on trial at Liverpool, actually, when he was 15 years old. He's a winger. I think he's got, did I say 12 goals? I think I said 12 goals.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was on trial with us when he was 15, and then Brexit came into play, and we weren't allowed to sign him because of his age, and he was blocked from PAOK.
He's Greek.
He's Greek.
Playing in Belgium.
So it's 11 goals, and 15 assists. So he's one that we've looked at. Another one that we've looked at, or that has been linked to us after kind of a viral video went out last night, was Diomande, the Leipzig player, the young winger. Yeah. The one thing that I'm going to say about him, and I've said it in our Telegram chats, is that he has less than 30 senior appearances in his entire career. And as a whole, Liverpool do not go for players with less than about 100 senior games. Leipzig, I think, bought him last year for 20 million euros, and they're asking for 80 to 100 million euros for a player that has played half a season and has been good, and may be the next hot prospect. But for me, that price is ridiculous. Again, backstory here, interesting, is Richard Hughes had the opportunity to sign him, actually, with Bournemouth. So he went on trial to Bournemouth. He also went on trial to Chelsea. This was 2 years ago. And Bournemouth did not sign him. So Hughes, having had the opportunity to sign him, didn't sign him, but is aware of him. And Chelsea actually offered to sign him, and he turned Chelsea down. And he said, I want to go play. I don't want to be a bench player. I don't want to be part of, like, your giant, I don't even know what you want to call it, like, back store of players that are under 21. So he turned down Chelsea. Look, he's super exciting. He's a pacey winger. He seems to be like the hot prospect right now and the name that everyone's kind of getting linked with. Yeah. But for me, I will say it's 30 games at senior level. It's not a wealth of experience. You can have blips and really great periods of time, but to sign a player, especially at the numbers that we're talking about 80 million to 100 million euros. That's like Bradley Barcola money. That's not for this kid.
No, not a hope.
As much as he might be the next best thing, and he might become the next Bradley Barcola, but you can't spend this. We can't spend this kind of money on him.
This kind of a deal, those kind of numbers scream Ousmane Dembele, Dortmund. Ousmane Dembele went from, I think, Dortmund to Barcelona for obscene money. Didn't work. Went to PSG. And then when he finally grew up, has become the player that he is now. But it took him 2 moves to grow up, and then he became a serious player. All right, absolute insane money. There is no way in God's green earth Liverpool.
They just bought him for 20 million euros, like this year.
Do you know what? That's the kind of money that's Moneyball. That's the kind of.
I mean, it's what Red Bull do best. It is, but there's a limit to, like, there's a limit there. Like, I can understand someone going in and paying 40 for him, 60 maybe if you're Manchester United, but 80, 100. I mean, the players that you can get for 80 to 100 million euros with more of a catalog, for me, maybe it's just me. I don't know.
Yeah. No, look, the way I look at someone like him, and Leipzig to an extent, and it's half the reason why they invested into Leeds, is if Leeds stay in the Premier League, that's his path pathway to the Premier League and to a serious fee. That's how you I think the Red Bull project are going to look to use a Leeds United, is to take your players from the likes of Salzburg through Leipzig for development, to send to Leeds, for Leeds to then flip them onto a Liverpool. Off the back of 30 games, there isn't a hope in hell. I would hit the roof if we spent that kind of money on a young player who might be anything. Daniel's making the point here, in the summer, would I go for Barcola, Fofana or Rodrigo? Fofana, haven't heard a thing about what he's doing this season. Not a clue. Rodrigo can't get a game for love nor money from Madrid, and when he does, it's sparingly. So I don't see why you'd be looking to bring in big money for him. Bradley Barcola has signed a new contract at PSG, as far as I know.
No, he hasn't.
I thought he'd signed a new deal.
I don't think so. I think he's holding off.
Is he?
I think he's holding off.
He's an interesting one then. The only reason
I
wouldn't have gone for him is because of the potential of being already on a 5-year deal or something stupid. No, Bradley Barcola would be the one of those three that you look at, because I think he could definitely play through the middle as well as wide. He's seriously talented. I've liked him for the last 2 years. Every time I've watched him, he's looked lively. And the unfortunate thing for him at the minute is you look at who's ahead of him for PSG in Kvaratskhelia and Ousmane Dembele. I think he's a phenomenal talent, and he would probably be the one of those three that I'd say, yeah, definitely you'd have a look at it. I mean, Daniel makes a point there. Van de Ven can fuck off after what he did to Isak. Nah, not for me. If he doesn't go for that tackle, then he can fuck off. He goes for the tackle and gets it wrong, that's fine. That can happen. That's football. But if he doesn't go for that tackle, then he can fuck off.
There's a big difference between that tackle and what Martinelli did.
Yeah,
is exactly what I'll say. Like, in terms of the level of assholeness.
The ball was there to be won. He tried to win it. He got it wrong.
It was still a dangerous tackle, but still.
Yeah, but that can happen. If he bottles out of that tackle, then you wouldn't want him anywhere near your club.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. Have you seen any other links really that are worth? Has anyone in the chat seen any other links that have any sort of ground in reality? I'll say. I think there was another winger that was put out there. I'm going to try to see if I can pull up his name.
Not Musa.
It starts with an N, and I'm blanking.
Nisa or something like that.
I'll find it. I'll find it in a second. But if anyone in the chat has any other links that you can think of, or that have popped up that you,
all accounts, Villa are looking to try to bring in Tammy Abraham.
They're also trying to bring in Conor Gallagher, which I think would be a very smart.
That's a very
for the money they're talking about, which is I think around 30 million-ish.
Yeah.
Because he's homegrown, because he's in his mid-20s, to have someone like that's what I want in a squad player. That's what we're missing. That kind of a player. Yes, Nusa. Thank you. He's the one that was linked as well. I'm going to try to see if I can find a little bit more information on him.
Yeah, but from Conor Bradley, for me, or not Conor Bradley.
Conor Gallagher.
Conor Gallagher. There was a lot of people wanted him when he was leaving Chelsea because of the versatility that he offers you in the middle of the park. He can be your number 8. He can be a 10. He can be a wide midfielder. And I think at Atletico, he's been that. He's not played as much this season, but I definitely think if you were looking to replace Wataru Endo in your squad.
Oh, yeah. Every day of the week.
Every day of the week. That's the deal I'd be doing.
And it goes away towards chipping at that homegrown issue that we have.
Yeah. That's another one. Haven't seen us linked with him now, Johnny.
He just went off today with another injury.
Yeah.
He just went off in the Newcastle game today with another hamstring injury.
Tino Livramento is one.
Yeah, he's going to face, Eddie Howe says he's going to face a period of time out after his left hamstring pinged again.
The side I saw linked with him was Arsenal. Look, as a player, he's versatile. He can play left and right. And I think if Andy Robertson is going in the summer, look, I predominantly think he's a right back. I don't see him as a left back, even though he can play there. If Andy Robertson is going in the summer and it's a full back that we're looking to bring in, he wouldn't be the worst option because he does give you that flexibility to have on the bench to play right, to come on and play right or left. And you could feel comfortable in rotating him with your fullbacks right or left, especially if you're also looking to bring in Nico Slotterback, who can play as a centre-back or as a left-back in an auxiliary sense. So it wouldn't be out of the realms of possibility that Tino Livramento is one that we kind of consider in the summer for sure.
The other one there's been very, very loose links to is Mane from Wolves.
Yeah, he's still raw. He's still young.
He's raw and he's young, and I don't think he moves until the summer. But I do think he moves. One thing to be said is that he does have the same representation as a couple of players that are on our team. So his agent is, familiar with Liverpool and has dealt with them in the past. But there's a couple quotes that say, Liverpool are the club that I've heard about. I think that's because the representatives he's already with have a few players at Liverpool, but he's going to be hard, if not impossible, to hold on to.
Yeah. Look, Wolves are going down.
He's 18 years old. Again, the world is at his feet. There's a few kind of compilations out there that are threading. I think he threaded together his finish with a Sadio Mane finish.
Yeah, I think that's
kind of where this is all running from.
Yeah.
But
I'll tell you, it wouldn't be a bad idea to turn around at Wolves and say, look, fine, we'll sign him. You keep him for a season. Develop him in the Championship. Let him play. Play him in the Championship. Give him a year. And then the following year, we take him. I think doing it that way, rather than expecting him to come in, because he wouldn't be homegrown. He will be homegrown, I think, by the time he turns 21.
Yeah, but that's still, he's 18 now, so we've still got 3 years for that.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Right now, he would come in and you'd have to almost name him for a champion. Whereas if you bring him in, if you sign him, you loan him to Wolves for the season.
Does he primarily play off the right?
He kind of I see him more as a left-sided attacking midfielder who can play through, or attacking winger who can play through the middle.
Okay.
He's more like an inside forward.
I guess the argument is always going to be from Liverpool is blocking Rio's path. Provided Rio actually gets minutes. But
the thing is,
you almost wish that he was someone that was on the right. I wish he was someone that could understudy Mo Salah. Because we are missing that player. We are missing that understudy.
Yeah. It was someone who asked earlier on. I think it was Mark asked it very early on, and I kept the comment, but I got rid of it since. Oh, it was Daniel, actually, I think. If we were gutted about missing out on Antoine Semenyo. Gutted, yes. Surprised, no. Because I think we found out early on that his choice was Man City, and that's why. I don't even
know if I believe that, though.
I do.
I think that we found out early on that Mo Salah wasn't interested in moving.
Yeah.
And that we pulled out the minute that we figured out that Mo Salah wasn't going to leave.
No, I think it could be two things. Could be true at the same time. I definitely think that once Man City became available to him, bearing in mind he's got a strong relationship with Thierry Henry. And the idea of, I don't believe for a second that he's going to be going to Man City and carrying the water for anybody. I fully expect him to be going to Man City and playing on a
he does fit and I'm not talking about Pep Senior, I'm talking about Pep Junior. He fits the Pep Junior kind of winger new system that they're creating there.
Yeah. I think he's better than Marmoush at what Marmoush does. I think he's better at it.
I think Marmoush has gotten shortchanged there. I think that he's a very good player, and I would take him any day of the week.
And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Liverpool looked to do a deal for him.
They're not going to sell to us.
The Liverpool and Man City don't have a bad relationship off the pitch when it comes to players moving.
You say that, but they wanted to buy Diaz. We wanted to buy Alvarez, and all parties decided that wasn't going to happen because they said for a fact we're not going to sell to our rivals. So maybe in the past when we were in different echelons.
Yeah, I get that, but I think there's clubs in the league that. We will never do business with Manchester United. We will, odds are, never do business with Everton. But I think we'll do business with anyone else. And I think Man City are not in that position where they can keep buying and buying and buying. They do have to get money back at some point. And I think with someone like Marmoush, clearly the player isn't going to dislodge Haaland.
But I don't think that's what he's bought for.
I think that's what he wants, though. I think he wants to play week in, week out.
No, but I don't think no one's going to displace Haaland as a striker at Manchester City. The wings are up for grabs, and how they play the wings, that's fine. But I don't know. I mean, for me, I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was saying this is what I mean, but with Marmoush and Semenyo. Semenyo can be that wide forward from wide to in. I think Marmoush is definitely a striker. He can play as a second striker. If you're playing two up front, he can play as a false nine and support Haaland through the middle. But I don't see him as being a wide forward, as in what Gakpo does for us, what Salah does for us, where you go from wide to in. I don't think that's his game.
I think he's best in a two.
I think he's best in a two. And I think that's how we're going to develop, is a side who play with two strikers.
Yeah, I mean, because if you could bring him back in and replicate the Ekitike-Marmoush combo, trust me, I'd be in dreamland.
Yeah, I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility. I
would love that. I mean, I like this idea of, sunshine and rainbows coming from you, Kev. I think Sam actually hits the nail on the head here, though. I think that it's not that Semenyo is old at 26, but LFC want to sign two top young wingers that are 23 or under for bigger potential for a similar price range. I think that you're spot on, Sam. I think what they're trying to do right now is take the average age of the team down significantly. And I think they're trying to set up a team that is not really necessarily for the now, but is for, the next 6 years. And I think that's what you're seeing with, the purchase of Wirtz and the purchase of Ekitike and even Isak, even though he is kind of on the higher end of that age spectrum, he's going to be you don't want to fill your whole front line full of 26-year-olds. No. You want to have Isak be your 26-year-old, and then you want to have two maybe younger wingers that are going to bridge that gap. You don't want to fill your front line again where all of them are the same age. It's a very similar problem that we created again with Bobby and Sadio and Mo. Yeah. You want to kind of stagger that a little bit. And I think that there is some thought behind this. I don't think that FSG are stupid people. I think honestly they have thought about this in depth. And I think they have people lined up for the summer, and they've just decided that, they can't pull anyone forward. And that, if they bring someone in now, they'll block the pathway of who they want to bring in the summer. And again, that's not me saying I don't think we need bodies. I do, but I don't know. That's just my. It's a little bit like the Chelsea model, where they're trying to bring in these players that are sort of 23 and under, and they're trying to kind of build for the long term. Where even if they don't work out, they can still flip them. And I think that's something that we've been really poor with, is the ability to have any players with saleable value.
We want to keep all our toys.
Yeah, we want to keep all our toys, but the idea that we can bring in players, develop them, and then sell them is something that we haven't done for a while. And if we want to kind of keep playing in and around the big kids' playground, I think that that's something that we do kind of need to do.
I think Daniel makes a point there. Salah was 25 when he signed. The thing is, what I think you had was three players in Firmino, Mane, and Salah coming into their best years at the same age, at the same time, and they develop together as a trio. And that's what you ideally want. If you've got Ekitike, Wirtz, Isak, you want to supplement that. You ideally are, I think, what they're looking at now is wingers who are now 21, 22, who are already established playing first team football at a reasonable level, ideally Champions League level. And
with at least 100 games of experience.
Exactly. And that's where you start circling off when you put in your filters.
Like a Barcola, for example, he's 23. He just turned 23. That would be the age you're looking at.
That would
you're
be
looking at kind of like where Ekitike is.
Yeah, I think that's the top end.
Yeah, but he would be ideal. Yeah. And then you'd probably look between 21 and 23 would be the window that you'd be looking at.
Exactly. And I think if you go through a website like Transfer Market and you're putting your filters in, you're putting a filter of under 24, between 21 and 24, top 5 leagues, Champions League, Europa League, minimum 100 games. That's a position, left mid or left wing, right wing, striker. It's central.
I think we're good. I think we're going to be good for striker. But yeah let's talk about the wingers. Let's do wingers.
Yeah, but I think ideally what you want is flexibility. You want wingers who can play various roles, left and right.
Yeah.
You want them to be comfortable on the ball. You need pace. And the more filters you add, the narrower that list becomes. And then you're probably left with probably 5 or 6 players. And then for the rest of the second half of the season, watch those 5 or 6 players. Watch their results as they come.
I think that it's already done. Like I think they will have these.
Of course,
they will have them done. Like they will, if it's not signed on the dotted line, which I'm not saying it is, but like the plans are in place. Like a Yakuba Minte. He's 21 years old. He would be an example of the player that you'd look at for the next step. Someone like that. Like you're not going to pull Yamal out, but someone like a Minta that could take that next step is a perfect example.
I'll tell you who I wouldn't be surprised if they do look at is someone like Guehi at Barcelona. Someone who
there's a lot of links to Yildiz. He's 20. He's from Juventus.
He's another one, but I'm on about
another one.
Someone like Guehi at Barcelona who should be playing first team football week in, week out for Barcelona, but because
he's been ravaged by injuries, hasn't he?
He has, because he was flogged to death as a kid.
Yeah.
But you look at it, if Barcelona move on from him and you turn around and say, okay, we can get him at a reasonable fee, we can get him healthy, and then he can be an asset to us. That's the gamble in the market. That's the gamble that they look for. It was a gamble that didn't pay off with Chiesa, but if they could have got that one to work, that's the kind of nuggets they're looking for as well in the market. It's not just what presents as the ready-made replacement. They're looking for that.
They're looking for the Ryan Gravenberches of the world.
Yeah, the undervalued player.
I don't think Gavi's undervalued, though. I mean, I guess that's the problem. But
I think Gravenberch
yes, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, Gravenberch definitely was. McAllister definitely was. Those B+ players who are ready to become A+ stars.
Well, that's the elite version of Moneyball. So you've got Moneyball at like a Brentford level, but the elite version of Moneyball is you're still spending money. And it's not necessarily spending money at like an Andy Robertson level, but it's finding those ones.
Educated guess.
Yeah.
Not everyone is going to be your Phil Coutinho.
They do try to use data to kind of make it as close to a sure thing as they can. But there's always changes.
And they have to fit. If they're turning around and saying, look, Arne Slot is going through a tough period now. This tough period for Arne Slot now could be the makings of him as a manager.
Well, I think that's what you saw with, again, like I hate to throw in Red Sox kind of analogies, but like the managers at the Red Sox, they would go through shit seasons, and even though it felt like it was a sure thing that they were going to fire their manager, they didn't. They stuck with them and they kept with them. And I know that we're all talking about Slot out, but like it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if they decided to keep him beyond this summer, to be honest. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I'm not advocating for it, but it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Because I do think that they will back their horse. Like once they make a decision, they will, I genuinely, like unless he falls out of the top 4, then it's a different conversation. And I think that, we will cross that bridge if we get to it. Hopefully we don't. But I think he makes it through to top 4, I would not be surprised if they stick with him. And I know that's not a popular thing, but
we shall see. Look, there's a couple of things before we go. QR code on the screen is for Patreon. Someone's already clicked on it. Great, thank you. Anyone who isn't in the chat who wants to try Patreon, there's some great content already there. You get access to the back catalogue of everything that we've done so far. Tomorrow night, they're doing the usual 10 p.m. show with the lads, Gav, Emmett, and Keith, and whoever else they're role playing at 10 o'clock tomorrow night. We'll be back on Monday to do a reaction to the Barnsley game. And I think we're going to do the same as what we did last time, where we are going to do a match reaction on YouTube. probably 45, 50 minutes where we'll talk about the game. And then we'll go into Patreon about 15 minutes later and we'll have a proper rant about it. We'll have a proper rant and a proper chat and an in-depth chat about the news and everything that's going on in the day. And that'll be open for everyone who's coming over onto Patreon for that as well. And all of it eventually will be released on Spotify within a few days. So Patreon is basically the price of a pint for a month.
You know, and I think we're currently at, I want to say, about 4 to 5 shows a week over on Patreon. So, you know, we do our preview shows and our reaction shows on YouTube. We try to keep those free to everyone because we know that not everyone can afford to kind of pay for the extra content, and that's cool. But basically we're doubling, like, you double the shows that you get from us if you join on Patreon. Safely, you double the shows. You know, we are able to show live clips on Patreon. There's a great show that I love, which is our, you know, Good Process Ref Watch, basically. So that's going to be on Tuesday. We'll talk about the shit Everton penalty. We'll talk about the Verts no penalty. We'll talk about there's actually quite a few incidents that happened during the last match week. So I already have kind of a full docket planned for Tuesday. So there's that. And yeah, going into next week, we're going to go back into our regular schedule because we took some time off with Christmas and the New Year and things like that. So everything is going to kind of slowly trickle back to normality. Normality. I don't know which one of those is correct. Madge can correct us. But I think that's it for tonight. Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
Nah, all good.
We're just gonna kind of like hold our breath for Connor Bradley. I really hope that's not a bad thing. I really hope it's not.
Ankles aren't designed to bend that way, but the saving grace, I think. Look, you just hope for the best. One
thing I will say, which pisses me off, is that Martinelli is most likely not going to face any sort of retrospective action for that. And I think that if I was the PGMOL, this would be the perfect opportunity to kind of clamp down and say you don't touch injured players. Full stop. This is the precedent we're setting. If you touch an injured player, it's a 3-match suspension. For me, that's what I would do. And it's not like a crusade against Martinelli. I just think that you do need to set a precedent at some point.
You saw it earlier in the game as well, and we missed it at the time. Was
Gabriel, I think, did it on Verts, where he literally picks him up by the shirt, pulls the shirt over his head. And again, thankfully, Verts wasn't injured in that situation, but this is almost a directive from Arteta. There's actually a great video of Arteta doing this to Martinelli while he has a knee injury. So it comes from the manager. But yeah, for me, I would like to see a retrospective action, but I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, I think we should wrap up on that, even though it's a disappointing note. We will be back tomorrow, or Gav will be back tomorrow. Like Kev said, tune in at our normal 10 p.m. time. And then, what time is the game on Monday? Is it
7:45 our time? And we should be back on 10 o'clock on YouTube with the reaction to that. And over on Patreon from about 11 for warts and all look at it.
Cool. All right.
And any news that comes out from the day.
All right. I think that's it from us.
All right, guys.
We'll see you later. Thank you for tuning in to our random Saturday night show.
Cool.
We don't do this very often. So thanks so much and enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening, wherever you are, or Sunday morning if you're in Australia. Enjoy it We'll catch you later, is what I'm trying to say. All right, Kev, take us out of here before I put my foot in my mouth again.
Cheers, guys. See ya.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.